Hey there, and welcome to my porch plant montage. Okay, enough of that for now. I'm a meteorologist as far as my career goes, but I love to actually get outside and enjoy the weather and pick plants that are perfect for our really hot and humid climate here in South Carolina. I only have this porch as far as my personal planting space, which means I've made use of potted plants. So the first thing we're going to talk about is how to place your potted plants in a way that really showcases them. And one rule of thumb I have is to always put the biggest plants in the back and then gradually put smaller plants in front of it. As the plants grow, you can reposition them. So the style that you have at the beginning of a season might not be what you end up with by the time the season's over, and it makes things a little bit more exciting. I get a lot of shade, which means that popular houseplants do very well on my porch. And that brings an opportunity for a lot of color that's not going to come from the flowers. For example, my Ficus teakii, love this houseplant, but it does really well outside on the porch during the warm weather months, and it provides so much color. Variegated plants just in general are really fun to have, like this Ring of Fire philodendron. And you also want to provide all year round interest, like this cast iron plant. This is a variegated cultivar with variegated ivy as well. So just really fun to have those colors around constantly all year round. And then you can plant cyclamen like I have, and they'll come back every winter and provide some really fun winter color. The summer color comes from caladiums. So there are a variety of plants that we can actually just keep out here all year long. One of my favorites during the winter time are camellia. They make pretty decent potted plants for several years. Color is nice, but you also want to have interesting textures too, especially with potted gardening. You can have so much fun with that. Like this Queen of the Night epiphyllum, it makes amazing flowers, but the rest of the time it's complementing the much more lacy kind of leaves of this monstera. I absolutely love the combination of these together. Oh, and speaking of plants that love pots, let me talk to you about bird of paradise. This is a orange bird of paradise, not to be confused with the white bird of paradise species. This one actually stays small, which means it's perfect for pots, and it blooms best under stress, like being root bound, for example. So you are going to get blooms, beautiful tropical blooms, in a pot from this plant. I just want to take a moment to appreciate how beautiful these flowers are. They don't even look real. It's almost November here in South Carolina, and I still have tons of flowers on this Plumera. This exact Plumera was actually sitting with me in my college dorm senior year when I was studying meteorology. Here's a picture of it. And as exotic as these flowers look, they are actually so easy to grow, easier than common ones like hibiscus for me. And that's because they go dormant during the winter time. They lose all of their leaves, and so you can keep them in the house with barely any water all winter long, barely any sunlight all winter long. It's not going to grow again until you take it back outside in the spring. But this wouldn't be a tropical garden without palm trees, right? Now, a lot of people have this perception that palm trees are just this huge, huge tree that's just not right for potted plants. But the reality is that there are plenty of palm tree varieties that stay very small in pots and actually look their best in pots, like this old man palm. And what I love about this palm tree is its beautiful trunk. That is why it is called an old man palm. These fibers kind of look like a silvery beard, right? And the older it gets, the more beautiful it looks, but it's a slow grower, which means it's perfect for pots. And you'll get to showcase it a lot better in a pot than you would have if it's in the ground. So this is actually a plant that benefits from being in a pot, at least I think, stylistically. And speaking of style, you don't have to be stuck with just the same type of palm tree. Look at this. It's called a Hydra Steely Benguni, and I absolutely am mispronouncing it probably, but it's so pretty and so uncommon that it doesn't have a common name. So you see these fronds? So what I love about this plant is that it has a very exotic look that you're just not going to get from other types of palm trees. The leaves will never be divided with this beautiful form, and it's a relatively slow grower, so once again you get to enjoy this in pots for so many years. And it likes shade. That's the other thing about super tropical palms. A lot of them grow in the shade, and they don't necessarily get that big. So if you have a shady porch and a warm, hot, even hot summertime climate, then you can probably grow a lot of exotic palms that you just would have never expected in your climate, as long as you have a place to put them during the winter time. But while we're on the topic of interesting palm trees, I want to show you this one. It's called the Licuala grandis. It doesn't even look like a palm because once again, it has those undivided fronds, but it is absolutely gorgeous. I will say this is a tough one to grow. As you can see, I have really struggled. There are some years where this just doesn't look well because if it gets too dry for too long, and I'm talking the air, not even water, or if it, maybe gets a little too cool at night, then all of the fronds will start to brown at the edges. Fortunately, it's been a very humid summer here and a really, really successful one for this palm tree. It is probably not going to look this good when I take it back outside in the spring, but this Chamoedora microspadiques, as tropical as it looks, can actually handle temperatures into the 20s Fahrenheit. That's well below freezing for those of you using Celsius, and it has really gorgeous berries on it too, and that's why sometimes it gets the name Christmas palm, although there are several palm trees that share that name for the same reason, because of their gorgeous berries. Either way, pretty plant that I keep outside basically all winter long. Some plants just have sentimental value to me, like my staghorn fern, which is surprisingly cold tolerant, by the way. I have kept this outside at temperatures as low as the upper 30s before I start bringing it in, and it's a very happy plant. You can actually see right on the edges of these fronds some spores. And if you look carefully, you'll actually see some of the spores on them, which means that it is, happy enough to reproduce. I've had this plant since college as well, and it has gone with me through several moves. New Jersey, Florida, now here in South Carolina. Because of my job, I, tend to be on the move every couple of years, it seems. So there you go, just a little bit of a slice of my paradise. As you can see, there are a lot of plants that I didn't necessarily show you, but I think I got the ones that are my favorites in, and hopefully it just gives you a little bit of an inspiration of what's possible. No matter what space you're dealing with, you can turn it into a lush jungle of plants.